The other one was about the fact that IDEP system works quite well. It's like in Belgium, you have to be an IT person. This person was definitely not very data or digitally savvy, and he was really happy about, like, okay, I have established this routine, it works. And he was also reporting for Belgium, and he's like, it was a nightmare for him. So I'll briefly go over the new system. So one of the we had 3 ambitions is well, keep the data model in mind, so really respect the reporting procedures of the businesses, but also have an easier user interface. And this is quite difficult to keep the procedures in place, but also make it easier. It's something that we are balancing every day. And also keep the new accessibility rules in mind, because I don't think anyone would want to, but you should also be able to access this on a mobile device. So briefly so this was the landing page. This is how where all the periods would be. So you could see, so these would be the aggregated results that they are comparing. This looks like this right now. So we combined these 2 screens into one and also got rid of all the additional information that's actually not necessary. Also, there's a very clear start upload or start manual entry right now. So no longer looking for how to get started. And this is the old editing screen. This looks like this right now, a lot cleaner in my opinion. And also you can use this on a mobile device right now. This is how the questionnaire looks like this. It's still a lot of information on one screen, but it's well, a lot more crisp, I would say. So how are we implementing this new design? So we do regular pre-tests with both new and experienced users to make sure that we can sort of tackle the needs that they have to have an efficient procedure. And we use a growing test panel. So every time we're including about 5 new businesses, so the businesses that were in the pre-test previously, they are invited again, so they can see what's been happening with the feedback that they have been given. And by including new test companies, we try to avoid to get this tunnel vision and really get new input from new businesses. And we use both the mock-up, where they can look at what we are going to implement, and also to the real thing already. So the open questions that I still have is, well, we don't have a name for this yet. So if you have any inspiration, I'm really happy to hear. But also, how are we going to move about 30,000 businesses that are in the current system to the new system? I had a discussion with Paolo yesterday. They did a big bang. I don't think we have the heart to do so. So we have to think about how are we going to transition all these businesses. And we need communication plans. How are we going to inform our businesses that we are going to transition into this new system? We want to avoid forcing them to the new system, but in the end, they really have to go to this new system. So how to do that in a friendly but directive manner is still a question. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm really happy to hear your questions.
Okay, thank you for this great presentation. Also being on time as everybody else, it's really nice. So we have now about 8 minutes for discussion. Suggestions for names? So that would be fun, I guess. So yeah, I see Paolo waving his hand. So.
Thank you very much for your 3 presentations. I have some questions to Julian. First, about the name. This is Introstat. So it's inside the web portal. So for us, it's a web portal that has a name. It's Web Inc. So inside that, we have lots of web forms. One of these are Introstat. The other question is about more specific, more about delegation, because the respondents have one for example, for imports, other for exports. Do you plan to implement this at the web form level or at the portal level? Because we can have both solutions. The last question is about new declarations, because we have because of this schedule, 10 days or whatever to respond. They have used this expedient of the use of fake new in order to get rid of the of the obligation. Do you plan to have some sort of mechanism to avoid this kind of new fake new declarations? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So starting with the last question. So we do have additional sources that give us a rough estimate of how much, so what the value is of what they should declare. So if they declare something completely different, like a null or well, something random, then we can detect that, and they will be well, reapproached basically to edit the data. Yeah, so warnings in first, and so if they give something that is really strikingly different from what they expect, they are prompted with please explain, basically explain yourself. So they have to so they can add some input there, because sometimes it's actually true. Sometimes it actually is decreased. Yes, so if that's true, then they can, well, give an explanation there. Sorry. Yes, so the current portal allows multiple respondents to work at the same time on different, well, either the import or the export. And so the ambition is still to recreate as is. So this feature will be maintained. So that would be basically at the portal level. Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions or suggestions? Yes.
Question and suggestion? No, something. Yeah. You mentioned that you want to keep the data model stable. And of course, it makes a lot of sense burden-wise to keep the input side stable, so that companies that have set up something can produce sort of the same input and use that. Are you also bound by data model requirements in-house? And do they sort of restrict your ability to build a nice and user-friendly new platform? That was the question. And then about migration, I think we did, and I think you did too. Some years ago, many years ago, there was two IDAP applications, one called IDAP.net and one called IDAP Web. The IDAP.net was a downloadable version, and we migrated all the enterprises using that into the IDAP Web. I think we did that over a long time, 3 years, I think. The first one being voluntarily, the next one being pushy, and the last year being end of game thing. But I actually think in hindsight, we didn't experience that many problems. So just, I think it could have been done quicker.
So again, starting from the last point, so the plan I'm promoting internally is first to have our test panel transition as first and really have a stress test with them. It's like, okay, basically here you have a hotline. Whenever you go and start reporting, please call us whenever something is responding in a way you're not expecting. So have that, and then basically increasing the numbers over time. And then sort of do it in a pushy way, I would but really give them the time to transition, say. You also, so the first question you had was, sorry.
Have you been restricted by data model requirements from in-house in designing this solution?
I think the stress was so much on keep the file that they already have in place was so so top priority that the in-house discussion actually wasn't relevant because we'll be receiving the same data anyway. Yes.
Okay, yeah. There is a question. It has to be the last one.
Good exercise for you. Yeah, you didn't mention anything about validation. For the file upload, do you have some kind of validation process and real time? We have a lot of our customers deliver something and then they call, did it come through okay? That's why we're focusing quite a lot also on immediate validation. Give them a green light, a thumbs up. This is now done. Thank you. Don't call us anymore. Good, you've done that. Second issue was API connectivity. Do you have something like that in mind for this, or does a person still have to go and upload the file?
Thank you very much for your questions. So first, the validation, yes. So there are a lot of validations actually already in place in the IDAP system. And as already mentioned, we're going to build as is as much as possible, just with a cleaner interface, basically. If you have too many errors in your data file, it actually won't upload. So it will give you an error message with you have over 100 error messages. Please try again. If you have less than 100 error messages, the file will upload, and for every line you have an error, it will show you a message, basically what goes wrong, and you won't be able to send in. So you can only send in if you got rid of all the error messages. So that saves us a lot of calling afterwards. But they also have some easy escapes, and some businesses will use the easy escape, and then obviously we still have to recall them. So in terms of validation, we are working very extensively on reformulating the error messages, because they could be as naive as you made a mistake in this line, and then the business had to figure out what went wrong. So we are working very actively on the validation part. Unfortunately, we are currently not looking into API support, so they will have to go into the portal and submit the data there. From the qualitative study, we do know that businesses actually don't really mind it that much, because they also do some checking on the aggregates, also comparing it with previous periods. So that is what they do in the portal. And for especially the skilled respondents, they're done with this in about 4 minutes, and that's from collecting the data from their own systems, going into the portal and submit it. So if the skilled respondents are actually really happy with the system as it currently is. Thank you very much.
All right, so we conclude the session now. First of all, thank you to all the presenters, and thank you all for your questions. I now go more so Liam will introduce you now to the speed session on the posters. So.
Okay, so during this session, each of the 5 poster presenters will have about 3 minutes to describe their work and posters. After this, from about 10:35 to 11, there will be a coffee break and the posters will be on display in room 139 on the first floor. And Diego will take us down there just to show us where the posters are, so we can have further interaction and conversations kind of on more of a one-to-one level with each of the presenters at that stage. And then we'll reconvene back up here for 15 minutes at about 11 o'clock, where we'll have a general discussion about the posters once more and get some further clarification and feedback on that. So to start with, we're going to start with Johannes, whose poster is on business survey coordination in Germany. So Johannes has very recently finished his PhD thesis titled Methods to Coordinate Survey Samples in the Context of German Business Statistics. And he's working as a research and teaching assistant at the Economic and Social Statistics Department of Trier University. And he's also involved in the Research Innovation for Official and Survey Statistics project. So I'd like to hand it over to Johannes now.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so this presentation will be mainly on a depiction method, on some of the results on a simulation study on business survey coordination. So yeah, this research was done in cooperation with the Federal Statistical Office in Germany. And the aim was to find a coordination system for business surveys which would fit Germany best. Just to give a quick overview over which business coordination systems we applied. Yeah, so these were basically these 4 here, so Netherlands, Norway, France, and Switzerland. And yeah, in total, we had to coordinate 15 business surveys with different characteristics. And information was needed at federal state level and at different economic branches. And oops. Yeah, so this is a quick overview over the business surveys which we have in Germany. So here you can see the economic sectors. And these are all the surveys which are executed by the Federal Statistical Office. Here are some different characteristics. I won't go into detail now because I don't have that much time. If you're interested, yeah, free to visit me at the poster session. Yeah, so we did a simulation study. So we executed a lot of Monte Carlo simulations. We had a panel data set of about 400,000 enterprises and 75 industries over 20 years. And yeah, we had a lot of estimators which we used. We had a lot of different scenarios for each coordination system, and therefore also a lot of results to depict. And initially, I just thought about condensing all this information, but then my boss at the university, Ralph, came up with the idea, why don't you use a Shiny app? And, oops, sorry. And yeah, so this is what I did in the end. So what is Shiny? Well, it's an R package, which allows you to create a user interface for depicting of data results. And yeah, this is just an example on how it would look like. And yeah, if you're interested, yeah, I'm happy to tell you more at the poster.
Perfect. Thank you, Johannes. That was brilliant. And as we say, any further questions can be discussed with Johannes at the poster session before we come back for a kind of group discussion afterwards. So we go next. Shall we go next? Yeah, we go Rui next. And then you, yeah. So next up is Rui Martins. So Rui is an economist with a postgraduate study in data analysis and decision support systems. He works as a senior statistician at Statistics Portugal, and since 2008, he's been the head of the business data unit. So his presentation is on web scraping and the status of license number plates on IMT. So I'd like to hand it over to Rui now.
Thank you. Good morning. 3 minutes. Yeah, that's a lot of time. Let's do it. For instance, I'm going to present an example of web scraping that aims issue in our Statistics Portugal with the problem that we collect the data from a survey, a typical survey for transport goods in which the unit is the vehicle number plate. And we select the sample quarterly, and we have the universe of the plates, number plates annually. We identify that perhaps some of the selected, sorry, yeah. But if we saw that some number plates were different status between the sample, the initial sample and the final data collection. And as we know that we have a web page, official web page, where we can submit a number plate each time to have a result of have been cancelled or not. Then we thought that this could be a very good solution to apply web scraping. So we did it. We identified the relevant elements of the pages, and we structured with our solution to submit 7,000 of number plates for each time. And then we simply create outputs in an Excel file with the result that is like has been cancelled or not been cancelled. With these results, we can refresh the universe of number plates before the sampling is selected by our methodology department. And so with this simple web scraping, I can show you later in the posters, we made a refresh that aims to two things: to less the response burden for non-utilized information, and for instance, to get information about the transport goods. That's the main of the survey. So these two issues is gained with this solution of the web scraping. More questions we can talk it about in the poster. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Rui. Next up, is Rebecca Chandler, whose presentation is on uncovering hidden innovators. Rebecca works at the National Office, or the Office of National Statistics, and has been a government statistician for 10 years. Her recent work has focused on the end-to-end transformation of business surveys and statistics, including transforming the measurement of the research and development from collection to production, and more recently looking to transform their annual business survey. So I'd like to hand it over to Rebecca now.
Thanks, Liam, and hi everyone. I was last year, 2 years ago, as Rebecca Keane, so I'm building on some of the work that I presented last time. Since the last project I worked on, transforming research and development, and we did some work linking administrative data and big data to help develop a more comprehensive view of firms' innovation under a broad definition. Just a note, I didn't do this work myself. This is a joint project with the University of Sheffield, Dr. Enrico Venino, who can't make it today. He did lots of the technical elements, so please bear with me if I try and talk through some of those. If you were interested in understanding how we negotiated some of the difficulties of bringing data together from lots of organisation, I'm definitely the one to talk to. So the reason we want to look at the work following development of research and development statistics is there are limitations to using those official metrics. So as a lot of you know, working in NSIs, we've got very strict definitional requirements of what we need to report to. And sometimes that does limit the insight we can draw from some of the data we collect and how we can help inform things like policy. And then we are limited then on some of the frameworks we have to draw some of the samples, etc., and having a bit more freedom around considering it from a more analytical view as opposed to a strict definitional view can allow us to draw additional insight. The main objectives of the project were to develop some more comprehensive or more broader definitions and understanding and a much richer data set and microdata for us to allow some of the analysis and the policy remit. To be able to understand some of the strengths and limitations of Ministry of Data against official metrics and see where we can use those in some of the future work that we might have, such as informing our sample design, which those who remember last time was one of our biggest challenges in the UK. Some of the key information you'll see presented in the poster later is that where the data sources overlap. So we've had some really interesting insights into what types of businesses are currently captured in our microdata from our samples comparative to those alternative data, and where we might need to strengthen that in the future. So which of the industries and regions of the UK are less represented. And for instance, this is a quick kind of summary of some of the data that shows, so anything above the line basically says certain businesses are more likely or more prevalent in some of our administrative data sources. So things like our pattern registers, any of our, we have a lot of policies in the UK which allow people to ask for funding to look at innovative activities that might not fall into the really strict Frascati definitions that we officially measure against. Helps us understand maybe the trajectory of where in the UK innovation is being looked at. So let me get a coffee first, but please do come with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. So our next presenter is Iris Muller, who will be presenting on the unit non-response in the IAB establishment panel and how to deal with it. So Iris is responsible for the design in the Institute for Employment Research in the establishment panel, and this is the largest establishment survey in Germany. Her work is focused in particular on the content of the questionnaire, the quality assurance, reliability and validity matters, alongside ensuring high response rates. And in addition to this, she also conducts research on women in leadership positions. So I'd like to hand it over now to Iris.
Thank you, Liam. We conduct the largest business survey in Germany. It's the IAB establishment panel, and about 16,000 establishments are asked annually. Like many other surveys, we suffer from declining response rates, and high response rates are particularly important for panel surveys. A response rate, here you can see the response rate, an overview of since 1993, when our survey starts. And the response rates for the refreshment sample were declining over the whole period of time. And in the last years, the response rate of our panel group is declining as well since 2019, like this. And we were asking ourselves whether the survey mode is responsible for this decline. Because we have self-administered mode and the interviewer administered mode. And in the past years, the self-administered mode increased enormously. And so we ask ourselves whether the interviewer has an influence on these responses. So we look at the first-time respondents in 2023, whether there was in contact to an interviewer, yes or no. And then we calculated the response rate of the first-time repeater in 2024. And as you can see, response rates for these interviewer contact interviews in the year before is higher than when there was no interviewer contact. And it's even lower when in the year 2024 there is no interviewer contact as well, with 40%. So we came to the conclusion that it's really important, especially for panel surveys, to have interviewers, a certain amount of interviewers in the survey. There are, in our non-response analysis we can show in the poster, there are other factors which are really important for having having high response rates. We found that addressing the same person in the company is really important to have higher response rates. Using the same mode as well, changing between several modes we have, having the same interviewer for a stable relationship to the respondent, and also avoiding questions that require research within the company, as we heard yesterday as well. And this is correlated with higher response rates, and I will show you these research in the poster. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. So we've one final presentation, and that's from Simone Ambroselli, who is presenting on Behind the Index, Inside the Amounts, a micro approach in evaluating STS and SBS turnover data comparability. So Simone has about 25 years experience in statistical production and research, mainly in the field of economic statistics. He is currently responsible for the Structural Business Statistics Survey in EESW. So I'd like to hand it over now.
So good morning. I'm Simone Ambroselli from EESW. I'm the responsible of the SBS surveys, and together with my colleague Patrizia Margani, who is the responsible of STS Statistics Index on Manufacturing Enterprises, we made a study to assess the comparability of a specific variable, that is the turnover. In a nutshell, the research question is very simple. We want to compare data from two surveys, and in particular for the variable turnover. And we decided to make a micro level analysis. Starting from the entry into force of the European regulation, EBS, European Business Statistics Regulation, STS and SBS statistics share the same definition for what concerns the variable turnover. Despite this fact, during a meeting, an STS working group in 2023, STS experts found some differences, some discrepancies. And they also set down a list of possible explanations for these differences. For example, the use of different statistical units, the KAUs in STS and the enterprise in SBS, or different time of data collection, the use of different data sources, a different kind of use of estimations, a different period of data collection, and some possible NAICS code reclassification due to the fact that data collection and production between the two surveys has a certain time gap. Our method was to compare these values, and first of all, we have to transform monthly KAUs STS data into an annual value at enterprise level in order to be compared with the SBS annual data. We obtain an integrated data set, and starting from this data set, we define a very simple indicator, the difference between the two values. And at the end, we made some analysis, microdata comparison and NAICS comparison. And so let's meet up during the break in order to talk about our preliminary conclusion, that is, that we found a good level of consistency, but with some misalignments. And so we can assess together the way to give some possible explanation, to talk about limits, advantages of this kind of analysis, and future developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone, and I'd also like to thank all the other poster presenters. So just to reiterate, in room 139 on the first floor, all the posters will be presented, and Diego De Stefano there will bring us down there to show us where this is. So thank you once more.